I'm Terry Prager, and I'm a resident in the Caronwood Meadows Neighborhood Association for 34 years. My son, who's with me tonight doing homework, trying to hide because he's embarrassed, practically grew up on the Upper Tampa Bay Trail. It's one of the things that is and has been and needs to stay what is right about living in Florida. And within just a few minutes, for most of our communities, it is either a bicycle ride, a walk, or a short car ride, which I don't recommend the latter, to that space. Now, nowhere, and by no people who are professionals, is it recommended that we spend more time cocooned in our cars, in our offices, or in our homes. But it is recommended that we're spending more time outdoors, exercising, getting presumably, and I put in quotation marks, fresh air, because of the impact that's already occurring with all the traffic congestion that's going on right now. Now, I remind you, Hillsborough County, you're already spending a lot of money to bring to the news and to our perspectives that there are way too many traffic deaths involving bicyclists, pedestrians, walkers in Hillsborough County. Have you guys ever heard of the Vision Zero program? That's a multinational program going on right now. My neighborhood, we participated in a traffic rally in our own neighborhood in a corner that borders Airlick Road, which is already impacted by all the additional congestion that's already caused by all of the extra apartment communities in our area. We had a near incident at the corner where some of our participants that were volunteering to bring safety just to our members who ride in and out of our community, where they were almost hit by motorists because they either have to fly making a left turn into our community or making a right turn with people right on their fenders. And yes, there are people that are avoiding accidents by darting around and not following traffic laws. And basically, just as a reiteration, as of January 15th, it was noted that 100 people died just in Hillsborough County that were walking or bicycling that came into contact with a motor vehicle. And that should not be happening. The Vision Zero perception is that one fatality is too many fatalities. And I also go along with everybody else who says, if these plans go forward, not only are we going to destroy an irreplaceable green space, you cannot replace that canopy, not within my generation, maybe not even within my son's generation. So dollars for development are not a good exchange for space that is green, because we need it. We need a balance. This is part of our balance, and we will fight with everything we can legally and as voters. And we will remember which Board of County Commissioners vote with this or against this, and we will not forget. So I hope that you will keep that in mind. Now, I don't have any sympathy for all the hours and the money spent on this. As I understand, the rezoning is not even approved. So this is moot. This is moot if the rezoning is not approved.
I want to comment. So just to clarify, the first concept that we showed is approved. The zoning is in place. We can submit for site plan tomorrow. We agree that that plan with the multiple crossings, etc., probably shouldn't happen. It's not in the best interest of the community. That's why we came up with other options, and then we're trying to get your feedback before we go before the
to the zoning, right? Which again is not finished. And thirdly, the thing is that this did not go before the Greenways Committee a second time after all these changes. Why not? I thought that they were a governing body that oversees these green spaces. Do they really? Why weren't they approved first? And that first answer was only no objection or no rejection. It was not approval. I appreciate your listening to me. Please go ahead.
Zoning is approved, but not the zoning that you put there. So, I mean, I know that you're saying 4 crossings or whatever, or this, but that is not accurate information. So I know a zoning, rezoning has been approved, but not that one.
That is correct. That's saying, but what I will say is that between our attorneys and county staff, that 3 crossings are available. And that's what we've been told.
I would say you have inaccurate information on that, but
Okay.
have a question, but I'm not entirely sure who I should address it to. The trail that's on the left side of where the street would go through goes, to me, remarkably close to Gun Highway.
So this was moved in this direction primarily because we had our tree guys go out there and look at the trees and try to figure out the best way to have the path go through there while maintaining the 18-mile-per-hour zone and everything else you need for bicyclists.
Okay, well, as much as I would love to keep the trees alive, I would like to stay alive also. So what my point is that you're going to add, you want 260 units, which presumably could be much more drivers than that, going in and out of there, which means now Gun Highway is going to have to be expanded. And there's already a sports complex on the other side, so the only place it could be expanded is into the trail or up next to the trail. We keep this just for fun, but my husband and I used to ride 4 miles to the trail and then ride the trail and then ride the 4 miles home. We don't do that anymore because as my husband was riding home, someone thought it would be very entertaining to throw this is a tall boy Arizona tea can, and it was sealed and full and warm. So when it hit the back of his helmet, it burst open like that. Isn't that hysterical? That kind of shit happens all the time. And if you talk to any of the people that bicycle here on the roads, you will hear stories. He could probably tell you 1 million of them. I've been run off the road by a school bus. So we no longer ride, we drive. And I am really concerned that we could be, again, being on the trail where we think we're safe, and the possibility of that being moved over closer, which it's already a big traffic problem. So I think that is definitely a distinct possibility. And then you're putting us right back on the roads again, which we're trying to get off of. This isn't a good idea.
Good evening. My name is Raymond Van Loon, and I'm a retired civil engineer. I've been in this area for 18 years, and I do ride a bicycle. And I try to ride that particular part of the trail several times a month. And it's the most beautiful part of the trail that there is anywhere in Hillsborough County, and I think beyond. But people who come to this area and want to see the kind of trails we have, that's the first place I take them. And if you relocate that trail, you're going to show a nice canopy of trees, but there is a power line right along the street there, a gun, and that canopy will actually be cut into in order to keep the power lines or the trees free of the power lines. So it really is not a very good plan. I am in favor of don't do anything to the trail. And I think the highest and best use of that property would probably be a regional or a neighborhood park. I think that the county should consider rezoning it or using their right of eminent domain to take it over and develop it for a future park. And, so it's my recommendation to just turn down the current development plan, and if they want to, consider option 4, go to the north off of Erlich Road and develop option 4. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jim Shirk. I'm a member of the Hillsborough County Bike Ped Advisory Committee. I want to just go on record that we on the advisory committee were not advised of any of this before this was sprung on us. It's the usual bait and switch we get. But right now we're in the throes of trying to pass a sales tax extension to make bicycling and walking safer, among other things, in Hillsborough County. And we don't need to try to fight things going wrong like this that create more hazard than they provide benefit. So just remind you that access to Ehrlich Road would be probably a little less controversial. So I strongly recommend it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jody Miller, and as you can see from my shirt, I'm a member of Run Tampa. But I'd also like to add some perspective because I'm actually moved here 4 years ago. I'm a service member. I've lived in over 24 different places, many beautiful cities throughout the U.S. and overseas. And I would actually just like to add some perspective for both the developers and our commissioners. So I'm a member of Run Tampa. I also happen to be a member of another running group called Wear Blue, Run to Remember, and another running group called Team Red, White, and Blue, whose national headquarters happens to be right here in Tampa. I've been a lifelong runner, so obviously that shows. I belong to 3 separate running groups here. Both of my sons are runners, and recently I just retired this summer and had an opportunity to spend some time with my teenage sons and run with them. In fact, we ran almost every day on the upper Tampa Bay Trail. So the perspective I'll provide is that the cross-country team, who both of my boys belong to, would run on. We would meet in right behind Ballyhoo Grill there and run with the team. And I can tell you for a fact, because I know the coaches of all the teams, that I'm sorry, I should have said, my sons go to Steinbrenner High School and I live up on Lutz Lake Fern. I have access to both the Upper Tampa Bay Trail right there next to my house, which goes through the, I can't remember what the name of the preserve is, and the one that runs along Veterans Expressway. And by choice, we don't run there because there are no trees and it's not nice. We all come here to run. And we're not the only ones. So almost every day we would see the cross-country team from Sickles High School, Alonzo High School, Citrus Park Christian School, Gaither, and others. So you would have 4, 5, 6, and 7 cross-country teams, high school cross-country teams, as well as the Hillsborough County Harriers, which is the younger kids, running up and down this trail. In addition, as you heard me say, once a month our team from the Wear Blue Run to Remember makes the trip up here. Our primary running route is up along Bayshore because we meet right outside of MacDill Air Force Base. So we primarily run up and down there, but once a month we come up here and run on this trail because it is such a beautiful trail. In fact, the premier trail for the Tampa Bay area, as does our other team, our other running group, Team Red, White, and Blue. So there are many, many running organizations, kids, high school teams, and others that use this trail. And what I would submit is that for the developers, families move here and come here, and they want places just like this where they can safely do outdoor activities and things of that nature. So I would strongly encourage us to keep the trail as it is.
My name is Gary Miller. I live in Odessa, just a few miles from here. I've been a runner for 50 years, and for the last 15 years I've been a competitive masters runner. I've represented Florida in national competitions, won many state titles at various distances. And I've been an attorney for the past 35 years, and I will say that my colleagues here have already eloquently addressed some of the points that I wanted to make, although I have a couple other points to make. As far as the aesthetics, I mean, everybody in this room that's a user agrees that this is not only a beautiful section, it's probably one of the most beautiful sections on the whole trail. I've run and biked up and down this trail, and there is something unique about this section. It's not just a part of the trail, it is a park. It is a meeting place for people. It is a gathering place for people. It is a special place that is unfortunately going to be impaired and grotesquely changed by what you folks are proposing. So, and there's no two ways about that. And I respect the fact that you've come up with some plans to try to mediate the influence on this. But the fact of the matter is, once you break this egg, you're not going to put it back together again in any fashion that's as good as the original. Now, as far as the other thing about it is, this is a place where many people start and finish. So they come through here twice. Everything that you guys do that hampers it for people is multiplied times 2. And as a runner who likes to use this trail to train, there is just something awesome about the fact that that's 5 or 7 degrees cooler when you start, and then when you come back and you're tired, you finish on that half-mile strip with that beautiful canopy. It's a little bit cooler. It's just a unique, naturally produced environment that cannot be duplicated, and it will not be duplicated by this. Not to get too sideways here, but you guys developed down by the hotel, is that correct?
We did the Rossum Citrus Park Village deal down the street.
Yeah. Well, in any event, in terms of development and what happens when a development takes place, take a look down there by the hotel. And you go through there at 11 in the morning or noontime, you look up, you see the sun, you don't see any canopy down there. And I'm sure promises were made there about, how it wasn't going to affect the trail and so on and so forth. These pictures look very nice, but I'm sorry, I'm skeptical about what that's going to look like.
Just for the record, the deal you're talking about was not our deal.
Well, developers. Now, as far as safety, this gentleman, made some good points. Like I said, I've run literally thousands of miles on this trail, and I like to watch the interaction between the walkers, the bikers, the cyclists, and it's a thing of beauty. And one of the only reasons it works is because it's a straightaway, and people can see if there's a 3-year-old kid out there on the trail. The bikers have time. They see him 50, 75 yards ahead, and they smoothly move over. Now, you guys are putting 30-degree turns in up here, and I understand the reason why. The fact of the matter is you're changing the complexion of it because now people have to make turns, they have to observe what's ahead of them, and that also contradicts keeping as much foliage and vegetation there as possible because people are going to you either leave trees which block line of sight, or you take the tree out and then you lose the shade factor. So those are two irreconcilable things that happen when you start putting curves into this. And I was out there Sunday walking this route that you folks were proposing and so forth, and there was a lady out there with her 2 real small, cute little girls out there, and I watched it. And the cyclists come down, they're 50, 75 yards away, they see the children, they move over, nobody gets hurt. I don't want anybody coming to my office with a case where one of those 3-year-old kids gets run over up here on this pimple that you guys are proposing because they couldn't see the child. Now, as far as we were given some of the comprehensive plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County recreation and open space policies, and again, not to belabor this, but the recreation park sites shall be held inviolate. That means free. That means no impingement whatsoever. And against diversion to other uses except in instances of overriding public interest. Overriding means more important than any other consideration. More important than any other consideration. This is not more important than any other consideration. And policy 3.12 says the county shall ensure that no actions will be taken which will impair the use of designated recreational trails. Impair means, what that means is you can't compromise at all, you can't diminish the use in any event, you can't spoil it in any event. And you've got a perfect situation now. Anything you do to it is going to compromise it, diminish it, or spoil it in some fashion. So it's an impossible task that you're faced with here. So you guys have to show some overriding public interest to realign this, and you've got to show no impairment. You just really can't do that. So I can get through this. I just want to share with people, because I know not everybody communicated with commissioners. Commissioner Hagan was kind enough to respond to my wife's note about this whole thing. And he said, and everybody should know this, I am pleased that the board denied the developer's request for the trail alignment to be a part of the rezoning application. This process was poorly handled and unnecessary. And that's a reference to the developer. As was stated Thursday, the developer must either move forward with his application without realigning the trail or have meetings with the trail users and gain your support. Now, right there, one of the things too, and I noticed one of the first slides that was put up there had all these commercial development out there along the road and so forth. And I'm sorry, the way that struck me is, do it our way, or we're going to put a bunch of commercial establishments in there. And how would you like that? You know? And anyway, the commissioner concludes the bottom line is that if trail users do not approve the realigning of the trail, his, meaning the developer proposal, is DOA and will not come before the county commission. So Commissioner Hagan has made this a very stark choice, and he's put the power in our hands, we the trail users. So in concluding, I just got one question. How many trail users do we have here tonight? All right, and how many oppose the realignment?
I just want to clarify, because I will tell you, I was the only commissioner who voted to say that the trail could. I was the only one who voted to say that the trail could not be moved. There was not a second to that, so that did not happen. So what the commissioners, just to clarify, did, what the other commissioners voted for, was to allow this to be open to negotiation. So it can still happen. There has been, what they're saying is, well, we want to hear loud and clear from you, so do that, but the meeting is going to be on November 8th. They've set it for November 8th, which I think is a very tricky date, because we will have at least one new commissioner on November 8th. We could have more. But what will happen is the old commission will still be sitting there on November 8th. So they don't necessarily have the same kind of accountability. And I made a motion last week to have it moved to December when the new commission would be in place, however that may be. And I couldn't get a second for that one either. So I just say stay vigilant, stay vigilant, stay vigilant, and don't give up.
And Pat, we know you're on the right side of this, and she's been on the radio and all over the place trying to help out on this.
Can I comment on one of your points up here?
Go ahead, please.
I absolutely don't want you to think that we put up the commercial buildings, et cetera, to try to scare you in any which way. This is simply what we believe is allowed to be done today, a conceptual of that. However, we feel like the options that we presented are the better choice, and that's what we were trying to balance, the needs of the community along with the trees and everything else, and it was our best foot forward.
My point, and you guys did do a lot of work, and I agree, a lot of these things look very nice and so forth. It's just that you're starting here, and you're trying to work up to that, and you just can't get there. This is God created this place, and let's leave it alone.
My name is Francine Silverman, and I'm a resident of Carrollwood Meadows, and I'm another Tampa Bay Trail user. I'm nervous. I've never done this before, but I feel very adamant about this. I agree with everything regarding the trail, but what I want to talk about is the infrastructure. There's 5 different builders currently active in the area. We haven't talked about the impact of that traffic on Ehrlich Road, in addition to the traffic that you would be putting on Ehrlich Road. As it is, there's a townhome community on the west side of the Veterans that when you exit, you can only make a right, which if you want to get on the Veterans, you will need to make a U-turn in front of Hillsdale Baptist Church or at the end of Carrollwood Meadows Drive to do a U-turn to get on to the Veterans. Who's doing impact studies in conjunction with construction that's going on where we don't know yet, I don't know yet what the number of units are in all of these different areas. Now you figure that you have at least a minimum of 2 cars per household, so and most you have dual working people in those units. Also, if you have a child that lives less than a mile from the school, they don't get bused anymore. So you have parents that are taking kids to their schools. We already got a problem up at Ben Hill, where you have to have the sheriff's department out there in the morning to direct traffic. Then, for those that may go to Gaither, that's greater than a mile, so we're going to be adding more buses onto this 2-lane highway or wherever because of the apartment complex. I have a great big issue with the volume of traffic